everyone, welcome back to the Hawkins Do You Copy podcast. My name is Ren.
And my name is Emily, and in this podcast we talk about all things Stranger Things.
Today we're going to have a little bit more of a chill episode. I am literally wearing pyjamas under my desk, which you can't see. I'm wearing pyjama trousers and slippers just to be super comfy. So that's, I think, what we need today is just a chill episode where we talk about some Stranger Things theories.
It's been a busy week. It's been a busy couple of weeks, actually, I think.
Busy couple of weeks, yeah.
It's been like uncharacteristically busy. There's been weddings, there's been work in a global pandemic. I mean, who would have absolutely thought it?
I've been, as per usual, in and out of the hospital. I think I've probably had more blood tests in the last 2 weeks than I've had this whole year.
I mean, I have not had blood tests.
That's saying a lot for me because I have multiple a year anyway. Because of, so you know, it's been a wild time. There's been A&Es, there's been scans. It's a wild time. So we figured that coming back to the podcast today, we would just take it easy in pajamas.
I mean, I'm not wearing pajamas, but you do you.
Thank you.
Cool. So, speaking of taking it easy, sometimes you want to take it easy on different platforms. And there are many platforms you want to take it easy with us on. And those platforms are Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and Stitcher at Hawkins Do You Copy. Then you can find us on social media at Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Hawkins Podcast, and then Tumblr and YouTube at Hawkins Do You Copy. Interact with us, find us, talk to us. Question of the week. 2 weeks. Some weeks. It's been a couple of weeks. We asked you this week, what are your favorite moments on the show? And we got a few. We got a few favorite moments. All of them, weirdly, were season 2 favorite.
As they should be.
As they should be. As they absolutely should be. So these favorite moments were Will standing up to the Mind Flayer. I really like that moment, actually. Yeah. I think like the moment when he's on the field, and I think I've seen that behind the scenes shot as well, you know, where they've got like the blue screens all around, and just the camera panning and him kind of standing there just shaking, and it just looks a lot cooler in show mode than it does in behind the scenes. But regardless, it is a good moment. It's a cool moment. Elle's return in season 2. You think all hope's lost? Bam.
There she is.
But no, just all the reactions in that, and like Mike's reaction really after, cool. I think it's just very, very cool. I appreciate. When Callie says your friends can't save you, and Elle replied, no, but I can save them. It's just, I think, it's just a good moment for her as well, that she's finally just been like, actually, you know what, I'm gonna live for me, and I'm gonna do what I want to do, like regardless of everyone else. And that's kind of carried on through season 3 as well. When we see her at the mall, she's like, we make our own rules and all of that kind of thing. It's just nice. What is your favorite moment? It can be from season 2. It can be from not season 2.
I don't know. There's so many like really good ones. A lot of them involve Joyce. I've said before, I really like the intro to season 2. I do really like the intro to season 2. I like the way that they played with the kind of the music and the transitions and reintroducing us to the characters, and then post the like intro we then get introduced to newer characters, you know, like Bob with the pumpkin like trick-or-treat bucket, and Murray, like the bit where Murray shows and he's like, get away from me, like that's really funny. I just think that that's all done really well. I really like the bit where Hopper and Joyce are sharing cigarettes and they're kind of like reminiscing. I think that's really cool. And I do really like Robin's coming out moment in season 3, and also when Elle sees them all for the first time and kind of has that moment of, I can do what I want to do. I really like that.
Yeah, I really like, and I think I said this on Instagram as well, when I put the question up, I really like the shed scene. Just
very good.
Should I stay or should I go playing, and also after should I stay or should I go playing, like when he's doing the Morse code, and then just I think Noah's reaction, just as he's trying to, like, as he's really trying to hold back the mind flayer, and I guess as the mind flayer as well, and just that whole let me go, and then the voice changing in the edit. It's just that always sticks out to me as a creepy moment. And also the moment when he is in the hospital, you've just woken up from after the fire burning situation, and it's such a small moment, but when they ask him does he recognize who Mike is, and as he turns around, it's just like his eyes go first, and then he's like, that's my friend Mike. And it's so creepy. And yeah, you can kind of look at it like, oh, he remembers his friend, but I look at it every time, it's like, oh, that's awful,
that's the mind flayer.
Yeah, and it's I love it. All my moments are Will moments. Are we surprised?
I mean, absolutely not, but you're absolutely correct, and Noah Schnapp should have won that Emmy.
I'll give enough one. I will give enough one. In season 1, when Mike says the Demogorgon is tired of your silly human bickering. Iconic. Absolutely iconic moment.
Yeah.
So today we have scoured the internet, and because we were thinking we want to do something on theories, and we were talking about some of this a while back, actually, like how can we kind of bring it in, how can we analyze without, overly like thinking too much of our own opinions and that kind of thing. And we looked on Reddit, a hotspot for theories, to be honest.
Everything's on Reddit. Like, I don't think there's anything that's not on Reddit. I think you could find anything if you dug enough on Reddit. Reddit is a brilliant website, and I love Reddit for theories and forums and discussions, but Reddit is the like dimension line between the safe internet and the dark web. Like, that's what Reddit is.
What is that one? Reddit
50-50.
50-50.
No.
There's morbid curiosity, and then there's that. I don't want to think. Anyway, back to Stranger Things. So we're on r/Stranger Things, as you do, as you are.
I followed that, yeah.
Phenomenal. And I was looking back. I googled a few things, and someone had made a master post of loads of theories pre-season 2, or like just after season 2. So these are all things that people have done in and up to 2017. So we thought it'd be fun to essentially go through this, talk about things that if they still hold up, if they don't hold up. And what's really cool actually is on this master list, there are things that people got right about season 2. So if they've got things right about that, could they have possibly got things right about season 4 onwards? Who knows? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Yeah.
So what we're going to do is kind of go through, Emily will choose some, I'll choose some, and we'll kind of read it to the other person. So we're kind of having that reaction and then discussion as a theory. Like, some of these I think we know and have kind of like touched on before, but some of them I'm kind of looking at and I'm like, interesting.
Yeah, there's definitely a few on here that there's one that we read out just before, which I think we might talk about this because I think it is quite interesting. I won't say what it is completely right now. That I wouldn't necessarily have thought of immediately, but there was always something a bit off about it. And I think a lot of people have said there was something a bit off about it throughout. And who knows?
Being very cryptic.
Very cryptic. Some of that I'm probably going to talk about in approximately 5 seconds.
So you found this on our internet deep dive. So do you want to go first and pick a theory to spring on me and everyone listening so we can discuss?
Why not? I'm going to start with the one I was literally just talking about. So first of all, that I will say that I don't know if we can do it on if you're like listening podcasts. But I will try and find a way if we can link it, and we might be able to put it in the description somehow. I don't think it'll be like a proper link, but we'll direct to places because this is a really cool master list. Who was the person?
If you go on our...
The person that did it on Reddit was Space Case 98765. So if you happen to be listening,
thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to come and watch us on YouTube, which, as Emily said, is youtube.com/copy, you can. The link will be in the description there as well, so you can go and find us on our YouTube and, you know, drop a cheeky subscribe and get the link from the description as well, because it's definitely a master post to go check out, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this post was from the 11th of October 2016. So this is just gone season one, right?
Yeah.
I think so. Just gone season 1, definitely pre-season 2. And this is: the monster that abducts Will is not the Demogorgon. I'm probably not going to read the entire thing out because obviously it's, you know, it's quite a bit to read. So I'll pick out little highlights, and obviously we'll link the master list so you can go read it yourself. Okay, so this person says this is smoke words every day. Thanks for that. And they've said, I think the Upside Down is an entire dimension inhabited by monsters. In the first episode, when Will was abducted, the monster follows him using the front door and unlocks it with telekinesis. The monster then materializes soundlessly behind Will in the shed. Compared to what we see later on, when the Demogorgon is spotted, it is always making noise and running like an animal. It doesn't use doors or slowly pursue a target, and it violently rips holes between dimensions and attacks like a beast. And then it mentions about Barb, and then how Barb's taken as well.
Mm-hmm.
If this is the case, how was Will able to escape the monster and hide after being taken? If it was the Demogorgon that took Will, it would immediately take him to the library instead. Instead, it appears like Will was able to find a hiding spot before the Demogorgon ever began hunting him down. If this is the case, it makes sense that whatever took Will to the other side was not the same monster as the Demogorgon. The fact that the monster was in the shed was able to use telekinesis, while the Demogorgon seems to use brute strength beyond dimensional tearing, makes it seem like there's some connection to 11 as well. I'm pretty convinced we saw 2 separate monsters in the first season, with more to come from the first one that still survives. Thoughts?
I am really here for this as a theory. I have been really vocal about the fact that I think it's really weird that Will was able to survive. Well, like Barb died immediately, Hopper gets caught up in the vines, like Nancy obviously is able to get out, but the Demogorgon does kind of like hunt her because of the blood, and it looks for the blood, whereas Will isn't bleeding at any of that time, like when he's taken. So I've always thought that was a little bit weird. You said some things there that, like, in that kind of made my brain just go like 5,000 miles an hour. What if it was Elle?
This is something that I have seen a few times, because for a good while, and I think it's on this master list as well, there was a theory that Elle was the Demogorgon.
Like, with opening the door, the kind of like taking him, knowing where to find him, recognizing him in the series, and then suddenly the next morning, I know it's because she escapes from the lab, but then the next morning she appears in the forest. What if, like, I don't want to be like, this is so like, I don't want to be like, oh yeah, it's kind of like a werewolf situation, but what if it's like she no, but you know, like at night
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But like she forgets that she does certain things. What if that's like part of it? Like she forgets that she can do certain things, or she becomes something else.
I mean, there was stuff obviously in season 1 where it seemed to be like there'd be little triggers which would make her then remember things.
Yeah.
And wild theory. Well, it's not really theory. I'm just making assumptions. Obviously, in the 6-second teaser, we'd seen flashbacks to her in the lab, and surely we would have seen that previously. So I mean, it holds up. I think there are things that go against it. Obviously there is the fact that, one, it was 5 years ago, and at the time I don't know how much they assumed there would be a season 2 at this point. I'm going to imagine it was possibly in the pipeline, because I think they filmed season 1 and 2 pretty close together. Yeah,
because we had them just over a year apart, because it was like July 2016 was season 1, and then it was October 2017 that we had season 2.
Yeah, and we obviously know that I'm sure that I've read somewhere, or it's in one of the books, that Noah was told, just hold tight because you're going to have a big storyline in season 2. So I'm going to assume that obviously they'd known stuff. So, you know, and obviously the comic book that came out shows Will being hunted down by a Demogorgon, but obviously we know of the comics, they are not technically canon as such. That I personally assume that the Will comic is canon. That's just for me. It feels like the most logical one because it runs alongside the show. But let's throw that out of the window just for 1 second. If that's a big plot point and it wasn't that was hunting him down, why would they release that in a comic? Like, they're not going to release it in a comic, are they? No. That'd be something that'd be within the show. And we obviously we don't know what's coming in season 4. We've been quite vocal about who and what we think possible villains are going to be. Maybe there's a tie to that. Who knows? I mean, if that's what it has been, if they've been playing the long game and that's been there for that long, that's kind of impressive. Which I know is how TV works. But you know what I mean? If it was something that this person picked up 5 years ago, and I was like, I don't think that's right.
That would be really cool.
That is really cool.
It's really cool.
I feel like we should do like a rating system for this. Do we go like I don't want to say it's a yay or a nay. But
how many Demogorgons do you rate this theory out of 5 Demogorgons?
Out of 5 Demogorgons, I will give this one, I'll go in the middle with this one, and I'm going to say a solid 3.
Me too.
I'd like it to be true, because I agree with you that things like the telekinesis stuff doesn't line up, because we don't see that then happen ever again.
We don't see the Demogorgon do it ever
that's
again.
What I mean,
but the exact same movement of the lock opening is seen by Elle in season 2.
Yeah, so obviously we don't see it with the Demogorgon.
No.
So something isn't right there, but it probably was. So I'm going to go with 3. What are you going to go with?
I'm also going to go with the 3. I've also just had a thought, like, if the Demogorgons are telekinetic, why can't they fight with telekinetic powers? Can you imagine if they try and close the gate and then the Demogorgon just screams at the gate and then keeps it open?
That is a point, because obviously, I mean, we would presume that the Mind Flayer has some kind of telekinesis or something like that. That maybe it was the Mind Flayer the entire time. That would be a cool throwback, but it wasn't. It absolutely wasn't. But
yeah, I'm going with the 3 as well. 3 Demogorgons out of 5 Demogorgons.
Cool. 3 out of 5. There are some interesting comments on there as well, but I would say read that to yourself, because we could be here for ages going through all the Reddit comments on this theory. So thank you for that one. That was really cool. 3 Demogorgons.
Like 3 Demogorgons. Okay, so where's the one? I'm going to read one which I have never heard before.
Okay.
But I think is a really cool one. So it's essentially that Terry's sister, so Aunt Becky, is not actually Terry's sister, but she was put there by MK Ultra to monitor Terry.
Oh, okay.
I think that's really cool. So this is by Follow Me WP. Follow is literally THOLO. Follow. But yeah. So it says Joyce and Hopper's visit to Terry Ives' house is not all it seemed. I'm not sure if this has been posted here before or if it's self-evident or something, but for those who forgot, Terry is Jane's, 11's mother, who participated in the MK Ultra training and miscarried a child who Terry believed was taken by the government and experimented on. Joyce and Hopper visit her to find out more about her child, but Terry is unable to move or speak, and it is Terry's sister that explains everything, telling Joyce and Hopper about how Terry actually miscarried her child and that she went insane. I think Terry does not have a sister, and that her sister was actually part of Dr. Brenner's team. She was sent to Terry's house to throw Hopper and Joyce off the trail. She paralyzed Terry with some kind of drug that stopped you from being able to move or speak, and then told a lie about how Jane was never born, and the whole thing was a crazy story made up by Terry. When they were leaving, Joyce notices Terry's lips moving, and I think this is her fighting against that, trying to ask Joyce and Hopper for help. I think the whole condition is pretty strange, and her sister's behavior is strange too, as she calls it all hippie crap and make-believe, which is why I think this might make sense. obviously in season 2 we know more about Becky and Terry and what happened with Terry, but that is interesting. Like, that is an interesting idea.
Yeah, like the way she contacts people.
Yeah.
As well. That does she phone the police or does she phone the lab or something like that in season 1? I can't remember who she calls.
In season 1, and she does it in season 2 as well.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
It is. I've never thought of that before, but
Me
it's
neither.
also one that would make sense because obviously Terry can't answer for herself.
No.
We see she's mentioned in the book. I'm sure Becky's mentioned in the Suspicious Minds book, isn't she?
I think so.
Let's presume she is. But then again, that goes with the kind of thing from the previous theory of the comics that if there was something like that plot-wise, they're not going to announce it in something they're not expecting people necessarily to go out their way to read.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I don't know. I just think it's kind of cool. Like, I think you think, okay, then season 2 came and, you know, she says that Elle can stay with them and she's like much more like open with everything. And then she goes to call the police. Like, that's what's interesting is like, if your niece, if this member of your family comes to you and you know that something is shady because your sister has literally become completely unable to speak for herself and look after herself and is so unaware of so many things, if you've seen that happen and then this child who you were told had died is now alive and is able to do these things, why would your initial thought be to go and contact people that you think were hurting her in the first place?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? That wouldn't be my first thought. My first thought would be to try and keep her as safe as possible.
Yeah, that is true, actually. That, I mean, it's one of the things that I don't know what I'd do in that situation. If I really think about it, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call the lab,
No.
that kind of thing. But I don't know. Does she call the lab? I don't know. Am I making up that bit of information? She calls some people.
She calls someone
higher up, right?
Yeah. I don't know if it's police. But
I want to say it's police.
But she still goes to an authority when I feel like you wouldn't. Not necessarily, not immediately, not the same day she just arrived. I feel like you try and sort out the situation first.
Yeah. Is that a tricky thing where logically maybe you would, because it is a random child, essentially, who has turned up, that you're kind of like how Benny does in season 1, where naturally the thing you do is call like the child services and be like, I found this child that's come here, looks really hungry, something isn't right.
Well, that makes more sense to call like some kind of like social services. Like, that definitely makes sense. I feel like Benny doing that makes more sense. I feel like Terry tries to call Hopper, but
Becky, not Terry.
Terry can't. I feel like Becky tries to call Hopper, but she also still doesn't know who he is. But I do get the logic of being like, we need to find out she's okay. But also it's just weird that she does it the same day. And
yeah. Interesting. What date was that one posted, out of interest?
So this was posted, it just says 4 years ago.
Okay, so that's potentially just before, let's say just before season 2.
It's just before season 2, yeah. And people are saying, I think if Brenna were actually concerned about Terry talking to Hopper, he would have sent over the lady to kill Terry. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, that's the point. I think Brenna is someone that Brenna's not stupid. He's going to cover his tracks.
Yeah, because
if he thinks for a second that even though he knows that Terry can't do much, so to speak, if he thinks for a second those powers could still be there if she tries to find her mum, that they can communicate in some way, then I think he would kind of go, goodbye, Terry.
Yeah, see, this is really interesting because it says You could argue that it would have been very suspicious. So this is the original post that said, you could argue that it would be very suspicious if they killed her. So maybe Dr. Brenner's team figured it'd be better for Joyce and Hopper to hear a lie to try and throw them off than to find out Terry had died recently, which might have made them more determined to find out the truth. It's possible they killed her. Yeah, exactly. And then this is obviously not before season 2, because it says it's possible they killed her off after this visit, but we won't know for sure. And then someone replies and said, I did think about that before posting, but I think Benny getting killed outright for no reason proves otherwise. These are people who think their government contracts, or in fact they are the government, I'm still not sure which at this point, will keep them safe regardless of how they do and how fishy it looks. They killed Benny simply because he interacted with the girl, and instead of sending literally any other female employee the company has, one that Eleven doesn't know perhaps, they send Agent Fraser. And because they send her, they know Eleven is going to run, so they have to send guards and such. And because of that, Benny has to die, because why would a lady from social services have armed guards who are going to physically restrain the kid? It's saying there's lots of incompetence and laziness in that decision, and I think he would handle the Terry situation similarly. And I find that really interesting because, yes, they kill Benny for absolutely no reason, but why did he send someone that Elle is going to know? And also, surely if Hopper can find Terry, Brenner knows she's still alive. Why is she still alive?
The only thing I could think of then is because he has done all the damage he can do to her, essentially. She can't interact. She can't do anything. She essentially has to live through. If you think about when Eleven sees her, I'm calling her 11. When Elle sees her memories, I guess it's like the same things over and over. That breathe, sunflower, and it's just
that one day
she's stuck in that. He's essentially killed her without killing her, and she has to live with that, which I guess in his mind is almost worse than death.
Yeah, it's an interesting theory, because I think it kind of, I think a lot of, especially in season 1 and 2, there was a lot of you don't know who you can trust.
Yeah.
And I think Becky is definitely an interesting one. That's a theory. What do you, how many Demogorgons out of 5 Demogorgons do you rate this theory?
I'm going to give that one a reluctant 1, but I wish it was a 4.
I'm going to give it a 2. I feel like if I had read that directly after season 1, I would have given it like a 4.5. I'd have been like, yes, I love this. This sounds really cool. But obviously, I think looking at it now, I'm gonna give it a 2, because the situation's weird. So I'm gonna give it a 2. Yeah. But yeah, I wish it was the 4.
So this one, really annoyingly, has been deleted, but I think I can kind of figure out what's going on through the comments.
Okay.
So this was posted, literally, I think it's the username's been deleted as well. It was posted by bracket deleted bracket on the 9th of August 2016. So this is literally just gone. And this one was 11 will die by using too much of her powers / her powers suck the life out of her.
That's so interesting because of season 3.
Yeah.
Continue.
So literally the only part of this I can see is, so I have a creepy theory about 11. And then it goes, deleted. But then, deleted. Yeah, it's so irritated. But for me, it's the comments that are really interesting.
Okay.
Because some of the things they're picking up, and this is also by someone that's been deleted as well, and said, what if the others aren't dead? And each one opens a different parallel dimension with a different creature that somehow mirrors the test subject.
That would be so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my god, if there's like 11, potentially if Elle's the last one, 11 different universes.
Yeah.
Oh my god, because Callie's would just be a whole massive illusion, and that would be so trippy.
There is another theory on there which I can kind of tie into this, which was about the multiverse, but actually says what you just said there, that there are I'm going to say it makes more sense, that we're currently in the 11th time of this happening. And then it does say on there about the thing that it didn't factor in was like Mike coming to save her that day and doing this and doing that and doing that. So we can kind of tie it in that way, but it would be really cool. Then some of the other comments someone else has said, what if one of the former test subjects is the monster?
I've had that theory of like, what if the Demogorgon is number one?
Yeah. What's also very interesting is it says here, just a guess, that it seems like she could have a rival as one of the other test subjects for the next season, someone with a less kind personality. It'd be really sad if using her powers lowered her life expectancy. It makes sense if they did that, given the nature of her powers. If you think about what's actually said in season 2, Callie, arguably the more test subject in a sense. And him looking at her, in like mind illusion, saying, "You have a wound, a terrible wound."
That's so interesting. I really like that idea. I would love the idea that there are 11, either this is the 11th cycle or there's 11 different test subjects. I would love that.
Yeah. It's, a lot of, I'm really annoyed this one isn't there because a lot of the comments are very mixed. They're saying that you bring up really good points. This person said, well, if she's still alive after at the end of the first season, I assume she's fine. I mean, she used so much power, she vanished along with the monster. If she can recover from that, I don't see why it would lower her life expectancy. But you bring up a good point regardless. Oh, nevertheless, sorry. But I just think, knowing what we know about season 2, what's been said, that it was illusion Brenner, but surely that isn't coming out of nowhere.
No.
That comment, like, does Callie know something? Obviously we know the Mind Flayer clearly wanted her for something in season 3, whether it was to make a point or whatever, and then the bite, her powers completely drained. She was not well in that situation. So I don't know, there could be something in that.
What if you can only safely interact with the monster that is in your parallel universe?
Yeah.
So her being bitten by the Mind Flayer took her powers because that is not the monster of her dimension.
Yeah.
So she has the Demogorgon, but the Mind Flayer attacks her.
Yeah.
She can't defend herself. Her powers get taken away. And then what if Will?
I know where you're going with this.
What if Will? What if he also has the powers?
Yeah.
And his is the Mind Flayer?
I mean, I have said multiple times, I would love it if Will was the Mind Flayer, because he reacts so differently to Billy that Will, in a sense, he can't hold back from it, but he's quite calculating that, whereas Billy is predictable.
And Billy is killed and completely taken over by it. Will is able to fight almost as if that's like, the Mind Flayer attacks. The Mind Flayer attacks Elle.
Yeah.
So then her powers are taken away, but she's able to easily fight the Demogorgon. The only thing that slightly goes against that is that if the Demogorgon did take Will in season 1, like we think it did, he was able to get away from the Demogorgon, whereas that wouldn't have been his monster.
But if you think about in the comics, if we're taking them as canon, for example, what do we see at the end of the Will comics? The Mind Flayer.
What if the Mind Flayer is the biggest one then? So it kind of makes you, if you're in that dimension, you're sort of you're like invulnerable to the rest of the monsters. Whereas Elle's only ever been in the Demogorgon version. Yeah. So she isn't invulnerable to the other one.
It's interesting. As I said, I am very annoyed that this theory is not on there, like, properly.
Yeah.
But it would be really cool. And once again, that is one that if this was predicted immediately after season 1, like pretty much immediately, then, I mean, it all does tie into, though, the idea of something that's been there from the start, deep-rooted. Stuff like that would be deep-rooted.
Yeah, it's been there since the beginning, which is what they've said for season 4.
Yeah.
I don't think you realise how much I'm in love with the idea that each number had their own universe.
That wasn't even the creepy theory that was deleted.
I'm like actually a bit obsessed with that.
Yeah.
That would be so cool.
It does make sense then why Elle has her own void.
Yes.
If you think about the way we see that, arguably, that I mean, I'm not presuming Will's a number. I feel like we would know if Will was a number.
Oh no, I don't think he's a number, but I do think he has powers.
Yeah, but if you think about how Elle, when she does the same eye thing, when she's searching,
yeah,
when she's in the void, her eyes move. Hers is just black, isn't it? A black void. Will, when his moves is, or it was when the mind flayer was there, it was the memories and the tunnels all moving around. So do they all have their own void? I mean, regardless, the theory was, is it killing Elle?
But is it like tunnels and they're all connected? Like all the universes are connected? I know that's not the theory. I also do think that maybe the powers, because I think we've said before that like her bleeding, we don't know why she's bleeding and what it causes and is it dangerous and these, you know, the different things, you know, because the more she uses her powers, she'll bleed like out of her ears and out of her eyes. So I think they obviously are doing some damage, but I've kind of now latched on to the idea that they all have their own different universe and they're like branching off vines.
Well, in terms of the Elle's powers slowly killing her, how many Demogorgons are we giving that out of 5?
3.5.
I'm gonna go with 4 with this one. Only because I think we've said before, and as you just said, about the bleeding things not quite being right. I do think the show will end tragically.
Yes, me too.
I do. But I think it will be more of a hero's death.
Yes. Like season 1. Like a throwback to the way she dies in season 1.
Yeah. If she dies. I mean, she might not. No. But there we go. I think it makes sense. And no doubtly, if they are slowly killing her, they will find a way to save her. You know, typical media stuff. But I'm going to go for 4. I would not like the theory, but I think for a theory from 5 years ago, it kind of still holds up.
Yeah, oh no, it definitely does hold up. Yeah, 100%. This is one that I think is really interesting, and I think if you look at a lot of the influences of Stranger Things, this could fit. So this is one that was 5 years ago. So this would have been 2016 as well. Yeah. And they've said that they just finished the series last night and struggling to conceptualize the idea of the Upside Down. I have some theories of my own. However, when I began reading several of the posts, I began to recreate my own image and understanding. So someone has said, could they make a mega thread of what the actual Upside Down is, essentially? So someone called Bass Beer in N Babes,
nice
shout out, replied with my question is, how is there only one monster in the whole Upside Down? There's an egg, so obviously there should be more. The theory I pose is that the whole town of Hawkins is under MK Ultra engineering. Everything that happened in the show is exactly as Brenner planned. That's why the survivors were allowed to get away and why Joyce and Hopper are let free instead of being killed. The idea that everyone is part of the experiment and that things are only going to get weirder. And then they've said they're not sure they buy into the parallel universe faction. I'm under the impression that the Upside Down is actually more of like a mental manifestation than a physical one. It's like a virtual reality is being projected into being that's only visible when the person viewing it is aligned with its spectrum, which requires passing through the gate or finding an edge that allows someone to pass in to phase with the Upside Down. It also pushes those trapped in the Upside Down out of visibility to those not in phase. The reason I pose this is that the structures from our dimension still exist in that one, so obviously it's not a 100% departure from our dimension. The idea that, but the thing that I focus on is the idea that the whole town of Hawkins is under MK Ultra engineering, which if you think about season 3, the Russian government, I know they weren't potentially involved with MK Ultra, but they also obviously had their own stuff going on.
Yeah,
had access to the mall and blueprints, and were able to build their own version of a lab.
And how does that just
happen? Like why Hawkins for Brenner to continue his experiments? I mean, in the first place, small town, middle of nowhere. Why does it have a massive government building? And then after MK Ultra in real life got completely shut down, which was the late 60s, early 70s, why is it in Hawkins where Brenner is still running a very big MK Ultra lots of experiments, massive dimension, massive gate. Like, why there? Why Hawkins?
It is something that, I mean, I think we've said about this before in here as well. It is something that does make you think. Like, I guess, you know, it's small town Indiana, essentially. Who's going to suspect Hawkins, Indiana? But then that makes it the perfect thing to be like, pick there because no one's going to care. I mean, you've said before that you think post season 4 or 5, like the Upside Down is essentially Hawkins because it's been taken off the map.
Yeah, the reason why Hawkins
dome style.
No, but it is like the reason why Hawkins doesn't exist is because Hawkins literally no longer exists.
Yeah.
What if it's like WandaVision?
Oh.
Everyone's like trapped in Hawkins.
Oh my gosh, give me that.
That would be so cool. Like, and that's why everyone is kind of like, that's why there's like weird things that like go on, but like weird, like unexplainable things, and like people that kind of pop up out of nowhere, and like all of these, like, oh my god,
like that scene in the park when Nancy and Jonathan are there, and then somehow everyone is just from the lab in some way.
Like, there's a scene in It Chapter 2. The movie, not the book, obviously. And they're all in like I don't want to say like town square, but it's where there's like a big statue of like one of the founders, and it's Richie. And there's a flashback, and then it's older Richie, like Bill Hader Richie, and Pennywise is there, and he's going like, I know your secret. And then everyone in the background is like just swaying like this. And it's really creepy and unsettling, but it's like this whole town is under control of this evil being, which is it.
Yeah.
And then you leave Derry and you forget you were ever there. You forget what Derry was.
It's a way to get Callie back.
Yeah, it is. And like, what if it's under this type of thing? Obviously the buyers have now moved, and from what we can gather, they haven't completely forgotten about Hawkins.
But then the buyers are a special it's an Australian, and the buyers are in a special situation where they have both Will and Elle there. So I think if they mysteriously forgot, and I mean, I also I'm going to take a wild assumption that they are still not okay wherever they are. Like, things are not going to be normal. Like if they're just laying down, I don't know, on a beach or something. Why are they going to be doing that?
It was really interesting, wouldn't it? If they were, near a beach.
Anyway,
I think that could be a really cool theory. Like the idea that there's parts of Hawkins that are just under control. And I mean, that could explain why Becky calls the police, why they send specific people to Benny's, like why everything feels connected. Like, we don't know like backstory stuff. Obviously we know people can leave. Dustin goes to camp. Like, we know people can leave Hawkins, but I do find it like interesting. There is something off about Hawkins as a place.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I think that could be really cool as a theory, like it being some kind of experiment, some MK Ultra type thing.
It would be quite cool. I think.
We know Stephen King is an influence, and we also know Age of Ultron, which is the first film with Wanda in it.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Give me Wanda in Hawkins.
Just Elizabeth Olsen.
Just Elizabeth Olsen just turns up.
And Paul Bettany.
Absolutely, yeah. Who is it? White Vision at this point? Who
knows?
And just no one questions it. It's like,
no one questions it.
It's just our new neighbor Wanda. Like,
I think we can say that the thing with Hawkins is that it was not Elle, it was not Will, it was not Brenner.
It was actually
Wanda. No, it was actually Agatha all along.
It was Agatha all along. Anyway, okay. So
how many Demogorgons? I'm gonna rate that one like 4, not because I think it's legit, but because I feel like there could be something weird about Hawkins in general. I feel like Hawkins could be blown off the map potentially. I do think there's more dodgy people in Hawkins, which was proven in season 3 with like the mayor and everything. And also I really love the idea, so I'm gonna give it 4 Demogorgons out of 5.
I'm gonna do like I did on the first one, and I'm gonna go in the middle with a
Fair.
3. Not because I don't like it, but because I think I'm gonna play it safe. I'm gonna go down the coward route. And go, I would like it to happen. I don't know if it will be as extravagant as that.
No.
That I think it will be in a more simplified sense, in sort of it's more to do with Elle and the lab rather than the entire town, so to speak. But I would like it. Yeah,
maybe Ted Wheeler isn't actually just like unaware. Maybe Ted Wheeler's in a trance
because of Agatha. There we go. What a crossover.
That's a fanfic ready to be written.
So there is one more theory on our list. It's the same theory, but it's been posted twice on there. So they're both post season 2. Yeah, they've got October and November 2017.
Cool.
They say it's a joke. I don't know if it is, because it stresses me out from day to day, and it's one we've mentioned before, but the idea that it is all a massive D&D game. So I'll start with the nearest one first. So they have gone with, their idea first of all is that why they think it's just a game of D&D is because there is a moment in season 2 where in the tunnels it says Dustin was described as a bard of the party. In D&D, bards have a power called speak with animals. You can comprehend and communicate with animals. You are able to ask questions and receive answers from the animals. If an animal is friendly to you, it may do some favor or service for you. In season 2, when they're in the tunnels, we see, and they've put a screen cap here. It says, hey, it's me. It's just your friend. It's Dustin. Will you let us pass? And then he gives the Musketeer spar, and off they go. He's done a favor. That is their argument for that there. And
because that actually shouldn't work. He shouldn't be able to give a 3 Musketeers bar to an animal which is so brutal and willing to kill as the Demogorgon is.
Yeah.
And okay, fine, he had it as a baby. But I feel like the Demogorgon isn't going to be thinking, yes, that's Dustin. He's going to be thinking, I'm a Demogorgon and I want to kill. And also Steve's covered in blood at that point.
Yeah. So there's no reason why that could happen. I mean, the comments they're saying, according to an interview on Beyond Strange Things, the Duffer brothers could actually pull out D&D manuals to flesh out their ideas. The Mindful was called the Shadow Monster. Then they went to the book to look something up and relate it to the D&D theme. So it could be. I mean, we know that D&D has been a massive influence.
Like a huge one. And the Upside Down is a part. It is a thing in D&D, you know, and
I will say though, it was originally called the Nether.
So it
ties in with that comment of, maybe they've just looked it up and thought, actually, you know what?
It makes more sense.
It makes sense to tie that across. But that is their opinion on that thing. But it does also say as well, a lot of people in the comments going, speak for animals is a low level skill that can be used by a few classes. But the main point is it's a very D&D moment. So, regardless, you know what I mean? It's a moment that can tie into that. This person also said that obviously the way their classes also react to their personalities, which we've spoken about before. We've spoken about the parties and how they actually relate to their D&D things. Of how Dustin being a bard, Luke's a ranger, Mike's a paladin, Will's a cleric or a wizard. How Will seems to change.
Yes.
Sometimes he's a wizard, sometimes a cleric. I think he's currently a cleric. But let him do what he wants.
He's been through enough.
The second supporting thing was also posted 4 years ago. This one was on the 9th of November. So a few days after Stranger Things Day. Cute. So that their title is Hawkins is setting of a campaign of a tabletop RPG being played by off-screen players. we're watching a game complete with I'm not going to even attempt pronounce that word.
Scientists.
Yes. An odd moment of game mastering a game. When a character dies, you somehow have to keep them playing. They've sort of done this with Will. There is oh yeah, they have.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yeah.
Also, there is magic, there are side quests. Max even tries to talk about her role in the group. Other street blues is maybe a bunch of kids gather on a table, one playing Will, one playing Mike. So many actions sound like they could be playing out in D&D terms too. That I'm going to shoot the demagogue with my wrist rocket.
And then the GM
would
be like, I'll say 20 for a hit that does any appreciable damage, shows that the roll is actually 17, and then the game master would be like, it does nothing, the beast is still coming. And then another player, which would be L, would be like, I have an idea.
Yeah, there is a theory that it's been floated a few times that Will, if we're going real Will, in terms of this, is playing L.
Yes,
that's something that has been floated around. As I said, they say it's a joke, but I also hate that this person in the comments says that could be last scene we see. The game is getting up from the table to get on their bikes and go home. Don't do it.
Yeah, my favorite comment is it says, I hope they don't do this. And someone's put, no way they'd do anything that lame. The whole thing was just a dream or a role-playing game. Fans would have no choice but to kill them.
Go for it.
I think it would be really interesting. I've never really thought about the concept that people outside are playing the game. I
only it would be them playing their own campaign.
Yeah, from the start of season 1. The last episode it zooms out and it's just Matt and Ross. It's Matt, Ross, and Sean Levy just playing D&D. Please do not do that.
Even worse.
That would be the worst thing. I'm not. I can't do it. Just Matthew Modine just rolling.
Just sitting there.
Just on his own. We've said before it would be cool if they've been sat on it the whole time. But also I would hate it. Like they say, yeah, it's a jokey one, but it is genuinely like my biggest fear.
Deep-rooted fear. That's my terrible wound.
Yeah, that's my terrible wound that it's going to end with it all being a D&D campaign. It frustrates me how much, or like it scares me, I should say, how plausible it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's there's so many, there are so many things that could make it work, but then at the same time there are many things against it. I think it's a bit of a cop-out. It is a cop-out ending.
It is a cop-out ending.
But then I never actually thought of the idea that there's the odd moment of when like a DM or someone is like playing it and then the character dies, we have to somehow keep them involved. I never thought of that, but actually, how does Will come back twice? It also explains how he is conveniently able to get away. Because they're like, no, you have to keep him.
Yeah, like because it's hard. Like I've obviously DM'd just the one campaign of the Hunt for the Lesser Hydra, the series that we're doing in here, and like there was that time when we were playing and there was like, because there was only 2 of you, and you have to like change the amount of people that you're going to encounter to fight because otherwise you stand no chance.
Yeah, I will say spoilers for later on though. There was one moment where I generally do not know how we did it. So
no,
like, oh my gosh, it just missed every time.
like, every time. So yeah, I've never really thought about that, but that makes sense. Like Lucas being like, I'm going to use my wrist rocket and then it not hitting. Interesting. Oh my god, it stresses me out. I hate how plausible it is. It is a cop-out, and I feel like Matt and Ross Stafford would know it's a cop-out, and I don't feel like they would.
Precisely why they would do it then.
But that's precisely why they would do it, just to annoy everybody. Please don't do that, Matt and Ross.
How many Demogorgons out of 5 are you giving that one?
Oh, I hate it. I just give it like 4 because it is quite plausible, which I want to give it 0.5.
Just one of the petals.
Just one of the petals. But it's gonna have to be 4 because I think it's quite plausible.
I think reading some of we've said before that we think it could be a thing. Reading some of these, especially that comment about keeping the character alive, makes me think that's exactly what they're doing. So yeah, I'll go with a reluctant 4.
Yeah.
Maybe 4.5. I'm feeling fancy.
Oh, no.
That's what I'm gonna go with.
What is your favorite theory out of the ones that we've discussed today?
I do quite like that one. I'm not gonna lie, I do like of the D&D campaign thing. I never would have thought of the Becky one.
No, me neither. That was like a real big like, oh, okay.
But I think I do like the idea that somehow the entirety of Hawkins is under the MK Ultra control in some sense. I think if they can pull that off correctly, that's really cool.
I really like that. I really like that one, and I like the idea maybe that all the numbers have their own parallel universe.
Oh yeah, I forgot I mentioned that one.
That would be cool too. Yeah. I was gonna say, just before we wrap up this episode, I feel like I think we were going to mention this at the start and just got too excited about theories. Should we briefly mention Robert Englund spoiling a massive part of season 4 if we're talking about theories?
Yeah, why not? I mean, at this point, people have probably seen this. This is probably going to go up tomorrow. So we're filming this now on the Monday. I think it was leaked. I say leaked. It absolutely was not leaked.
He full on said everyone. It, yeah.
On like the 27th, 26th, around there. So it's probably been seen. He decided to announce in an interview with someone that he's blind and he's gouged his eyes out. Now, take from that what you will. It could be dramatic, get people doing it, but he does say after, spoilers.
Because, he's Robert Englund, and Robert Englund can do whatever Robert Englund wants to do because he's Robert Englund. I mean that in a complimentary way. I feel like he's Freddy Krueger and no one's going to tell Freddy Krueger off. I think we said in our messages to each other that our theory is that maybe there's something he doesn't want to see.
No. Yeah, I think that would be quite cool. He's seen
something, and
in his mind the only way to get rid of that image is to literally get rid of all sight.
Yeah. No, he's playing a character called Victor Creel in season 4 who is in a psychiatric hospital and is under the care of Peter Ballard, who we've said we think
that trustworthy guy
is a little bit dodgy at all. So yeah, I just thought that would be an interesting thing. We'd love to know your thoughts on Robert Englund's spoilery comments, but we'd also love to know your thoughts on your favorite theory that we discussed today, or your favorite theories overall. And if you do go on our YouTube, you can see the link to that master post and tell us your favorite theories from that master post as well.
There are loads on here, so if you're interested, we can always go through some more.
You do a part 2. Yeah, exactly.
We'll do a part 2 at some point. Yeah, let's do a part 2 at some point. But if you want to hear a part 2, there are places you need to find us first. Yes. Obviously. And I'm going to find a better way to do these at some point. So we'll settle on something eventually. We're just playing with the system.
Brilliant.
But those places, meanwhile, they are Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and Stitcher at Hawkins Do You Copy. Then you can find us on social media at Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Hawkins Podcast. And then on Tumblr and YouTube at Hawkins Do You Copy. Find us, interact, talk. We love the attention.
We absolutely do. I thrive on it. Absolutely do. But thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Hawkins Do Copy podcast, and we will see you next week. Over and out.
Hawkins, do you copy?